in a situation where you find that a person look at this,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Trust Television. Time for the dailies on Daybreak. We have our guest reviewer, Ben Sherman, the former director of News Voice of Nigeria, with us in the studio to give perspectives to some of the stories. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak, as always.
Always a great pleasure. Thank you.
All right. We'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story here talks about January vow. Wike-led G5 fails to name presidential candidate. It has the writers that says, Autumn Makinde Ekpazu Ogwai in a fix. It also says, we are sure of reconciliation. That's according to Atiku campaign. Abia governor lobbies to replace late anointed candidate. They have run out of steam. Carry. You'd find all the details on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. That's basically the main story here.
All right, now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It starts with new Naira racketeering, EFCC to raid Lagos, Kaduna, Port Harcourt currency hawkers. And then the first rider, CBN bars multiple debit cards withdrawals, threatens stiffer sanctions. Emefiele meets reps, orders banks to accept old notes after deadline. Central Bank stops old notes payouts. Commotion persists at ATM points. And just beneath that, we have queues at ATM points. Then we also have one killed as tanker crushes 3 Lagos tricycles. Protest as Ekweremadu wife appear in UK court. Labour Party governorship candidate, others boycott Obi's Yola rally. And just by the masthead, how 100 bandits ambushed, killed 7 civil corps personnel. This is coming from a director with the corps. And above that, NMPC ADAX end 24-year production sharing contract. We also have reps dump 22.7 trillion naira loan request. Okay, 1 trillion naira borrowing. First scarcity threatens election national security. This is coming from INEC and CDS. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper, where the lead story talks about the cash crunch. It says, Emefiele, banks to blame for scarcity of new Naira notes. It has the writer that says, CBN chief to Nigerians, you won't lose your old notes. Deadline extension likely. You'd also find absence of Sikh child stores Ekweremadu's trial. NNPCL, CDS threaten action over fuel scarcity. Nigeria needs a tinker, not a... Okay, Nigeria needs a thinker, not a tinker. These are the main stories here. It says Tinubu also promises prosperity in Cross River, end to erosion in Anambra. NNPCL investing 2.6 trillion naira on 70 roads. These are the main stories on the Nation newspaper.
Over now to the Guardian newspaper. It leads with the story that says cash squeeze intensifies, stalls business transaction. The first rider, this is coming from Emefiele. CBN will still collect old notes after February 10 deadline. CBN uncovers mismanaged 4 million naira new notes in Ogun, knocks commercial banks. We also have online transfers take days to complete. Disputes increase. And just beneath that, we also have a queue of people at ATM points. Then beneath that, violence, internal crisis, mark campaign rallies in Niger rivers. We also have, still on the Guardian, Dariye Iyame's release, major setback in Nigeria's anti-corruption war. This is coming from TI, Transparency International. And just beneath the masthead, PDP condemns Tinubu's alleged threat to Governor Emmanuel. Also, Ekweremadu wife in court as trial continues today. You've missed Deadline, name your presidential candidate. Peter side taunts Wike. IMF urges central banks to stay vigilant, revises Nigeria's growth to 3.2%. These are the major stories on the Guardian newspaper.
All right, now let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper, where the lead story talks about the Naira redesign as well. It says, Emefiele bows, begs reps to allow cashless policy work. The writer says, assures value of old notes will be redeemed after February 10 deadline. Crisis looms as POS operators rip off citizens nationwide. CBN uncovers 4 million naira in Ogun. Slams commercial banks. How our intervention paid off, says NBA. You would find all the details on page 6. Below the masthead, security, industrialization, top Atiku, Tinubu campaigns in Sokoto and Oka. Also, you have federal records. Federal government records $1 billion investment in automotive sector. 2023 polls. INEC raises fears over worsening fuel crisis. You also have Emir of Dutse Muhammad Sanusi dies at 79. Other stories, development partners to commit $30 billion to boost Africa's food production. Wike vows to hot PDP leaders for withdrawing from Rivers cases. Pension fund investment in federal government bonds. Others hit 9.64 trillion naira. Again, LASMA confirms 2 dead, 4 rescued in Lagos auto crash. Electoral Act 2022. A turning point for Nigeria, Fagbemi. Buhari inaugurates 5,700 hectare Hadeja Valley irrigation scheme. These are the main stories on the Blueprint newspaper.
Now let's take a look at News Direct. It leads with banks to accept old Naira notes after deadline. This is coming from the CBN, as Emefiele appears before House of Representatives. Money supply in Nigeria rises to 52.14 trillion naira in 2022 despite policies. We also have presidential rally. Osun APC raises alarm over plot by PDP to unleash mayhem. And beneath that, for scarcity, INEC fears disruption of movement of election materials. And just above the masthead, we have Governor Abiodun commissions fire station. We also have Transco increases power generation to national grid as it commissions rehabilitated GT Unit 20. Also, NMPC ends 24-year-old production contract with Adax Petroleum. These are the major stories on News Direct.
All right, now let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper, where the lead story still talking about the Naira redesign. It says CBN will redeem old Naira notes beyond February 11, and that's according to Emefiele. Bank customers flay long queues at ATMs, soaring POS charges. You also have petrol scarcity may affect elections. Logistics, says INEC. Rivers will punish PDP leadership, says Wike. Tinubu in Anambra promises to industrialize, address erosion challenges. These are the main stories on Daily Sun today.
Okay, now let's look at leadership. Leadership leads with the event happened at the Leadership Conference, Stroke Awards. Odinga, technology can be used to rig election. And we have the first rider. Credibility of election depends on INEC courts. This is coming from Oshibajo. We also have 2023 will be the best in nation's history. This is coming from Lawan. Delivering credible post challenge of the moment, Mrs. Nda Azaya. We also have will tackle drug menace frontally, Mara declares. And then also we have INEC worries over worsening fuel crisis ahead of polls. Still on the leadership, Osun, politicians want to discredit beavers ahead of polls. We also have petrol scarcity, military police warn marketers. Emir of Dutse dies at 78. And just beneath the masthead, reps approve PMB's 1 trillion naira loan, defer 22.7 trillion naira request. These are the major stories on the leadership.
All right, now let's take a look at the New Telegraph newspaper. The story here says, Naira redesign. No one will lose money after February 10, says Emefiele. Says old notes not legal tender after deadline, but will still be accepted by CBN only. Uncovers mismanagement of 4 million naira by commercial bank in Ogun. Those are the writers to that story. You have also above the masthead, IMF raises Nigeria's 2023 growth forecast to 3.2%. And also you have the fuel scarcity will affect 2023 polls, says INEC. So that's another one raised by the INEC chair. Well, these are the main stories on the New Telegraph.
And then on Nigeria Tribune for this morning, we have old CBN. Only CBN will accept old Naira notes after February deadline. This is coming from Emefiele. And then we have Konkoso in Ibadan says, I'm open to restructuring. We also have police stop plan APC rally in Niger over security threat. Suspected headers kill DPO, 5 others in Benue. Also, election, INEC makes request for seamless fuel supply. We also have many injured as PDP APC supporters clash in Osun State. Then just above the masthead, Buhari's visit. Kano stone pelters sponsored by politicians, terrorists, and sympathizers. This is coming from the presidency. These are the major stories on the Tribune newspaper for today.
All right. Let's take a look at the Business Day newspaper, where it leads with the story of the Naira redesign as well. It says, new Naira, petrol scarcity ground businesses as sales slum, easing inflation scene threatened. So these are the main stories on the Business Day newspaper. Let's get perspectives to some of the stories here. Mr. Ben Sherman, thank you again for joining. It appears that the story of the Naira redesign and the fuel scarcity is taking over virtually all the papers. These are issues that directly impact on the day-to-day life of Nigerians. We've seen that in the past few weeks since the whole thing about the new Naira redesign came into being and the long queues at the filling stations and the rest of them. Let's start with the new Naira thing. Yesterday, the Central Bank Governor was at the National Assembly where he met with a committee of the House of Representatives, to kind of brief them on some of these issues. And there are some concerns that the CBN governor may not have been able to address all the questions in the minds of many Nigerians.
Absolutely, yes, because there are too many things waiting for some explanations. And to start with, this was a man at the point they said had disappeared. This was a man they said, okay, he's wanted. And of course, he came in. Having explained, he was ill, sick, somewhere in abroad, so to speak. Now he has come. National Assembly at the point they said they're going to send a warrant of arrest on him. He appeared. Now what are we seeing? He said, look, even when there's an extension of for the collection of old currency, it should be used as legal tender. But after that date, it's still going to be collected by who? He said CBN. For what?
Yeah, so I think that, for that, I think the point there is that there's a provision in the act setting of the central bank to allow, for the receiving of this money, the old notes, even though it's not going to be accepted as legal tender by any other person except the Central Bank of Nigeria.
So why waste time?
Perhaps it would douse the tension and the fears.
Honestly, we should rather look at...
And to add to that, what the CBN actually said yesterday was that only people who have the new case to make will have their monies collected from them. For instance, maybe you are not in the country during this period where you're supposed to have taken it there, then they will listen to you. Because you need to make a plea, you need to make a case why you didn't return the money when you were supposed to have done that.
So after let's look at it politically. After the election, they've done everything. Look, they've done collation. Some people will come with higher arguments. These were the reasons why we were unable to vote. therefore open the portals, let's vote. That's what they're talking about. There shouldn't be some people with higher powers to enable them stockpile the money, they've siphoned and kept somewhere. Now they want to take it back. So it's not a legal tender, even if you send it, it's not. But rather, let us look at some of the reasons why they said they needed this currency redesign. You said, yeah, in terms of ransom payment, it will reduce. Even the essence of kidnapping. Has it reduced? Some will say yes. Now, we're also saying that in terms of inflation...
I mean, yesterday we saw that the iSwap somewhere in Borno State are distributing the old notes to passengers on the road.
As much as 100,000 naira to each person.
Yeah,
well, in other words, it's of no use to them, maybe.
Yes.
It's of no use to them. But again, having said so, you also look at the need to control inflation. When they said you cannot buy bitter cola for 2 naira, therefore they shift it to 5 naira. Always we like that round figure kind of a thing. So they're going to ensure that 200 naira, 100 naira, 50 naira, 20 naira, they all are in circulation because the common man will use them mostly. And if you are talking of the higher notes, you leave it for the bigger guys who indeed will be doing some electronic transfers here and there, the way it is done abroad. Now, you go to ATM, what are you receiving? You're receiving still old notes. Now, we ought to be seeing some of these smaller denominations coming out from the ATM more. But we are seeing higher denominations. It will not help us again. And it will therefore tell us that CBN waking up to say, let's blame the commercial banks for all of this. We also want the commercial banks to refute that. They say, look, to refute and say, look, we are saying CBN did not give us this new currency.
But the commercial banks are not reputed. They are not.
That's what I'm saying.
Can they really?
We want them to come out.
This is their regulator.
We want them to come out to say, in a day, this is what you give us. It's not enough. But if the CBN governor is saying, look, we give you new notes that are so much available. So why are they not at the dispensing point? And that is where, as a regulator, the CBN should come up with its hammer, a sledgehammer. Whoever is involved should be dealt with.
I saw a report saying that the central bank released 30 million naira to each bank, to each commercial bank for distribution. 30 million naira cash of the new naira notes. So, and some people are saying, well, where is it then if that's the money that is being released to the banks?
30 million naira released to a bank, let's say any of the banks, 30. When one man will go and be looking for 50 million, that is not enough for you to I mean, let this money...
Which is why there's a limit for the withdrawal. And the instruction by the central bank not to withdraw cash over the counter, only in the ATMs. And in the ATMs, there are limits. You could only withdraw as much as 20,000 naira.
Yeah, you see,
thereabout.
yes. Now, you see, back to the economics. The essence is to ensure there is less money in circulation. If there's less money in circulation, chances are that you now bring down inflation. But is it workable in Nigeria? In some other economies, if the money is just not in circulation, you just see that prices of goods will just crash. But in Nigeria, some people would rather hoard. Let's keep and interpret the market situation.
Mr. Sherman, what a lot of people are complaining about now, it's not the fact that there is less money in circulation. There's almost no money in circulation. Businesses are grinding to a halt. Like, a lot of people can no more do their daily transactions. Those are the complaints that we hear these days.
And we expect that prices, therefore, of services will also crash. If there's no money, and just like we've seen in Taraba State, that the market, cow market there, prices are going down because there is no money in circulation. Apart from that, the money available, it's so...
But isn't this very temporary though? Because there's no money now, people cannot access those things, but they actually need them. It means that it's just a suspension of their needs at this point. Once the money comes, they'll have to go get those things.
Well, the economists will argue that in as much as, yes, there's just no money in circulation, prices must come down. But a situation where you have so much money around and the goods are not available, you just see that it's just inflation you're waiting for. And well, we expect that the CBN, the economic team of the president, will sit down and
Mr. Chairman,
and
one of the reasons they gave was because they wanted to move towards cashless policy. But the thing is this, some people have also complained that in the past 2 days, making transfers and all of that have become very, very difficult.
I agree. I witnessed that. Again, probably you now go again to technology. You want to transfer, I mean, your bank is not connecting very well via your service provider. So that is another level again altogether. And it means either that someone is sabotaging or someone is really trying to ensure that nothing works. So we expect all hands to just be on deck. It's just the truth. There's nothing.
Which also seems to.
When you look at when we've been talking about dollar, pounds, euro, and all that stuff, today is always naira. So there is something about the naira now. Is it going to find its own value right now? Let's see. But I think that the CBN governor and his team, they have so much explanations to give to Nigerians. Why is it that in spite of all of this, there is scarcity? If the scarcity is to ensure that the inflation is being controlled, and we're saying, you said we're going to be small denominations will just be available. We still have the higher ones, 500, 1,000 available more. And by the time you go purchase some items for 600 naira, issue of change is always a problem. This person wants to sell. He has the goods. But this person wants to buy. Take your money. No, I don't have change. Change has remained an issue with us. Maybe by the time we go into heavy electronic transfer or e-commerce, is going to help some of these things. Even armed robbers, those who go to houses, where's your money, surrender your money or your life and all that stuff. We just know that they're going into the wrong arena.
All right, then. Let's take a look at the lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper, which is a political story. The January vow, that's about the Wike-led G5, it fails to name the presidential candidate. So we understand that the G5 governors have initially said that, well, they will get to disclose their presidential candidate who they are endorsing by January. Today is February 1st, and we've still not seen that happen yet. So what exactly is going on here?
Just like I've seen a commentator saying they're out of steam. Truly, time is really running out against them. I remember Chief M.K. Abiola of blessed memory, when he had to pass a comment on Association for Better Nigeria, led by Senator, what is it now? He's also led, Nzeribe. Here you are, trying to ensure there is democracy. Nzeribe went and formed a parallel agency that was attacking democracy. So when they said Abiola, comment on this attitude of MQ Abiola. No, Abiola was full of proverbs. He said, look, Nzeribe is like a man who wants to fetch water from a well. But you first of all urinate inside the well before fetching. Can you see that gory kind of a thing? Now, we want democracy. Is it still nascent in Nigeria? We want it to grow. But when you have a team, it looks like they want to scuttle the process, destroy democracy itself. And everything you want must be done. People must always follow you. Everything. This is not military. It's also not military democracy. It is civilian. It's civil rule. It's democratic rule. So I think for them to be given all these conditions, you now say, you hear from us the last day of January. The last day of January has come and gone. Now look at the governor of Abia State. He's chosen, right, that his candidate is dead. Now, he has the task of going to ensure who am I going to crown. Now, will he be aligning with the G5 now, or he has a domestic issue to handle?
And now he has to work with the NWC of the party.
Exactly. Now, you go to River State, see APC, PDP, Atiku. Say, look, all these court cases, our lawyers still are being pulled down. What does it say? There is something pull out from these court cases. So there's something wrong really somewhere. If, as someone again in the party is saying, there's still room for negotiation, truly, time is running out. And we want to see that mystery, that act. How are they going to manage this crisis here and there? It's a serious matter that the PDP ought to, by now,
an expert said
settled.
that if this is not handled carefully, the members of the G5 could lose out at the end. Do you see that happening?
Of course, it's a possibility. Because even your electorate, they are just not babies. Even a baby, there's a limit as to how far you keep on feeding him or her with just a specific kind of take this akamu, day in, day out. In the end, baby will start throwing up. So the electorate are tired of waiting for this G5. Now, your presidential candidate will go to campaign in your place, you pull out and go for a meeting somewhere. Or you are in the office pretending to be doing some other state functions.
All right. So
I think it doesn't augur well for the PDP and the G5.
Okay.
They have to find a way out.
So another story, still talking about the 2023 election, INEC is raising concern over fuel crisis and the likelihood of that affecting the polls in terms of logistical deployment. So this is coming, right? Are we taking the proactive measures to address this to make sure that it doesn't eventually happen? Here we have an INEC that is heavily going to be relying on NRTW, National Association of Road Transport Workers. Are we really on top of this?
No, so far we are not on top of the situation. When some 10 days ago they said there's now a committee to tackle these incessant cases of shortage of petrol or fuel scarcity in the country, and it's headed by the president. The president is in Jigawa, the president is in Kano, he's in Niger, he's this. I think some people faulted it. If they had just simply said, this is a committee, get one retired policeman or civil servant somewhere and give him the task, ensure this thing works. Now we're having a situation where those to transport materials.
Could it be that the president was made the chairman of that committee because of the seriousness of the situation?
I'm wondering who will make the president the chairman. He made himself. And that's why the committee members, when you look at it, mostly security agencies. And you're talking of a president commander-in-chief, and you know the command structure from top down. Now you have a suggestion. Who do you go to? So it's a complex situation, and that's why INEC is good that INEC is already crying out very loud and clear early enough, so that this situation is controlled. You look at the difficult areas in the Niger Delta areas, when indeed you need fuel to power the boats, to go to some communities, to go in ordinary times. It was always never easy, not to talk of this moment where there is scarcity almost around the federation. Something should be done. If there is sabotage somewhere, it should be tackled seriously. And I still suggest that the president should indeed form a committee that will be in charge of operations. They can have this major committee as the president has, but have a subcommittee in charge of operations that will have a chairman who indeed, or a lead person who will, just a moment.
We don't know some people that were tasked with this particular duty before, because this thing boils down to,
I don't know who they are.
Nigeria,
we're only told that there is a committee.
Committees at every problem. I mean, another committee again, apart from the
yeah, I said
committee.
A sub within that, the one they have. Because the one they have, I've painted a scenario for you. If you're having service chiefs, you're having the head of SSS, IG of police, then everything is headed by the president. Who indeed? Is it IG who will call the president and say, oh boy, this thing is not working? Is it the NSA that will call the president? Whereas if you had got some people who indeed you can, from the top, and shout, I mean, what is happening?
But what other powers, you know, is beyond that of the president? I think that the president being in that committee shows the seriousness, like Stella said, of this issue and how important it is for it to be addressed within the shortest possible time.
We don't, you know, the movement of Inspector General of Police.
And in all
you
of
want
this,
to find him in Nyanya filling station.
Is the Minister of Petroleum.
Yeah, just a moment. You want to find the IG in Nyanya filling station. You want to find him in Kuchungoro filling station. You want to find him in Bulambulu filling station in Maiduguri. You want to find him all over the place. No, just get a committee that is mobile, smaller, and you see that they are implementing this. Is it the president? Look at the president's convoy. I mean, is it going to be by just telephone call? It has to be with movement. Some people are in the depot. Let's see. At the port, is the fuel coming? Yes, we've seen that. Is it being ferried out? Yes, it is. Is it in the depot? Yes, it is. But why is it that we don't have them in the filling stations? And yet we will find people hawking them, some people hoarding them. And it is only when there is scarcity that some filling stations open the services. What is happening? And so this is what we need. Don't call it a subcommittee. I mean, we've seen a committee. We have to have an arrowhead, even when the president is there.
All right.
And that's where the president is commander-in-chief, but he has, say, chief of army staff to do so thing. He has the IG to do. So we need a subcommittee within that main thing, and those ones will be in charge of operations.
All right. All right, then. Thank you so much, Ben Chairman, for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives with us. Thanks a lot. We look forward to having you again. Yeah. Well, we'll take a short break now, and then when we return to the top of the hour, we'll take a look at some of the headlines again and much more. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that